Hello, I'm Dale Matthews. This is Inside News, and we're joined tonight by Mike Jones. Hello, Mike Jones.
And tonight, we're traveling all the way back in the Wayback Machine to 1771. Can anybody tell me what happened on that in that year?
They tried to pass a measure for the Three River School District.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Was it successful? It's yet to be seen.
Well, we're going to find out. It's only 5 cents. Why, it's only 5 cents. Go ahead. Don't worry about it. We're going to get to this story. It's more interesting than you know. Okay. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about what happened on Friday. This is really interesting, and it's amazing, not tedious, but amazing, that it matches with something that we've been saying all along. So it turns out that that Sheriff Dave Daniel got together some folks in Cave Junction, including some
U.S. Marshals, I think.
U.S. Marshals and Sheriff's Officers Reserves, Reserve. And in a little under 3 hours, they arrested 10 people.
Yeah.
Guess what time of day it was? It was in the evening. Oh, we can't do it in the evening. Well, why aren't you there in the evening? We can't do it in the evening. It's impossible to do it in the evening. We're never going to do it in the evening. So they went in the evening. And guess what?
I thought it was quite interesting that they arrested 5 people at the Red Garter Saloon. I don't know if they walked in to, see what was going on there, or they got a tip that all these people were there, or they invited them down there because they won the lottery or something like that. I don't know.
They were arresting one person every 18 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
what this shows is, yes, you can do it. 1,
yes,
you bring more than one person. 2, you go to where the crime is. Everybody in Cave Junction already knows. 3, you stay there for a few minutes. You arrest one person every 18 minutes. Every 18 minutes. They got 10 people. Half of them all in one place. They all know where the crime is. What was the name of that movie? Walking Tall, Buford Pusser, or something like that. Yeah. Everybody knew where the crime was. Everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. This seems like, the flavor of it that I can see here is that it seems as though it was a warrant sweep. Yeah, how they were going through picking up specific people. Now,
done things again and again.
I'm suggesting that they do the exact same thing. That if they know that there are problem areas down there, just go down there, hit it with force, let people know that, hey, listen, you're not going to get away with this kind of stuff. It doesn't take that much resources out of the sheriff's department to every once in a while, arrive in force and take care of business. And that would keep these people on edge and
it solves the problem, and that's not good because we're not kept on edge if they go and they pick up these people who've been doing all these crimes, because the solution is not then a levy. The solution is go. It reminds me of this thing that there used to be in the 20s and the 30s. You would go over a state line. They couldn't get you because you're now in California and they can't follow you. Well, this is similar to that. Look, it's 501. Oh, well, okay, no more police. Let's just whoop it up over at the Red Garter. They show up at 502. Hey, you're breaking the rules. You're here at 502. This is the evening. You said you can't do it in the evening.
Yeah, and this is the article. Now, did this come out in today's Courier? Was this today's or?
Well, it happened on Friday, and it came out in today's Courier. Yes.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's Dave Daniel says that those that say crime is down are wrong. Daniel himself chased down a suspected intoxicated driver after the driver fled from the scene of a crash. Well, it's a good thing that the sheriff was there, and maybe if a sheriff is there a little bit more often, they get more of this stuff happening. It just seems like
and where the crimes are, when and where the crimes are.
Yeah, now
What a
you never
thought.
hear about this stuff happening in Selma. Like there's a massive crime wave in Selma. It always seems to be Cave Junction. And so knowing that, why don't you just go down there every once in a while with two or three guys and put on some kind of a show of force? Listen, I'm just advocating that the sheriff do his job, and I'm glad that in this particular case he did do his job. And
It can be done, and that's the
right,
problem.
of
Remember
course.
when Gil Gilbertson was in, and there was a citizen at the Cave Junction. We showed you the tape a long time ago. Citizen of the Cave Junction City Council meeting says they ought to come down here, and we know where the criminals are. I can see them right out my window. And the next time, there was Gil Gilbertson. That's not possible. This is not. Hey, I invite you to my office. You can look out the window. No, no, no. So he went to the guy's office, probably to teach him a lesson. And he sees the criminal right out the window. And he goes out, and guess what? He arrests the guy. Everybody knew where he was. It's impossible.
So if you can do this in a couple hours, then why can't you, do, five times as much in five times the amount of time? I just think that
It solves a problem. It solves a problem. That's why it's not a levy.
They could go there one day a week and have it be unannounced what day it's going to be. You could even have 2 days back to back. You could even have it in the middle of the night or whatever,
Right.
or it just to let these people understand that, guess what? Occasionally there's going to be some repercussion. Instead, it seems as though they have been, leaving Cave Junction to this guy who's, who's the
Contract deputy.
Barney? Yeah, they're Barney
Oh.
Fife down there, and they're not getting a whole lot of results with the thing. Well, you know what?
They've even complained about it. Hey, we're not getting our money's worth. Well, you need to say a little bit more than just complaining about it to Keith Heck, because that's not working, buddy. We were there when that happened. Working.
This shows that it can be done. Activity can happen, and they can have an effect. I mean, 10 people taken off the street, that's a lot. And if you're concentrating on the people that are the major sources of crime, after a while, they may get sick of being picked up.
One person
just guessing.
18 minutes. It's definitely possible. And so you say, hooray, I'm so glad you did it. And then the next question you ask, what took you so long? I'm not going to get an answer to that question, because we were told at the weekly business session, that's impossible. We can't do that at night, Can't do it at night. Yes, we can. So what's the problem? Okay. So here's another one there's been a little firestorm of a response to last night's show. And we're going to talk about one of the responses to that, and that's about the city council, and one of the Grants Pass City Council, and one of their things that we revealed on the show, we've done it before, is that their number 3 priority is law enforcement, and their number 2 priority sports park. And that they're looking to put us into 25 to 30 years of debt, up to $100 million. We're going to get to that story again tomorrow, but tonight we're going to be talking about Measure 1771. This is an amazing little thing put on by the Three River School District. Now, it is a new tax. I'm not going to support a new tax, but some of the details are incredible, and it fits in with our lead story tonight. Here's one of the things that you need to know, and this is from Tuesday's CAJO, last Tuesday, CAJO Commissioners Morning, where Chuck Benson, I think it's Chuck Benson, is asking a question of the commissioners about Measure 1771. You're going to understand this in just a moment. Nope, you're going to understand this in just a moment, because that audio is not playing. So what do I need to do? Mike, can you vamp for a moment while I fix this?
Okay. Yes. Well, I'm assuming that, 1771, this is the 5-cent levy that if we all pay 5 cents per thousand, that's going to end up netting them a couple $100,000. And with that couple $100,000, we're going to hire, what is it, like it's 5 or 6 deputies or something like that, retired police officers to patrol the schools and deal with potential violence towards school children, an active shooter situation or something like that. And it's been indicated that if we have these guys in there and there's an emergency that comes up, that we may well be able to use them in other parts of the county to react to a urgent need.
And here, I think, is going to be that little clip from Kjo. Here we go.
Looking for a levy to put essentially armed security people out there, retired police officers in most of the schools that would rotate from school to school. Has the commission had any input in that?
No, we did not meet with the school board, nor did the school board ask us about it. That is strictly their decision, their board decision to put any kind of levy on the ballot. Pardon me. I do know that they met with the sheriff because these people would be working underneath the direction of the sheriff. So being that said, they're going to contract with the sheriff's department. So that'll be an agreement between the sheriff's department and the school district.
All right. Would those part-time retired police officers be available to the sheriff's department should the need arise?
I think if there was a crisis or an emergency, yes, they would be. They would be backup because they would be actually sworn and trained officers.
All right.
Okay. That's very interesting.
Yes, it is.
So it does make you wonder a little bit. Well, if we can get 6 retired police officers that are run through the sheriff's department, vetted by the sheriff's department, available, according to Cheryl Walker, in the case of emergency, which we're supposed to be in. Remember the emergency we're supposed to be having, everybody? And they're available for under $200,000. Why don't we multiply that times, why don't we take that $135,000 that magically turned up to do water testing? It came out of nowhere. We've asked them several times. They won't tell us where that money came from. And it went away to nowhere. They won't tell us where it went. And let's take that, and instead of 6, we could have 5, and we could make those available to the sheriff. Why not? It helps solve the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? This wouldn't be a hard problem to solve. This is one of those out of the box type things that would help us to, I think it's very clear. It would become very clear in a very short period of time that we don't need to have $57 million to have a safe county here. All we need to do is have the will to actually solve this problem. And if you have a few of these people, and some of them are located out in Cave Junction from time to time, picking up, the recidivist wrongdoers out there, then that helps clean Cave Junction up, and you have a lot less of the issues. And of course, a lot less of the issues results in a lot less need or desire on the part of the citizens of giving more money to the sheriff's department via a levy. So I guess we can count that out.
That's not going to happen because, as we keep saying, it would help solve the problem. Here in this case, it's amazing that the sheriff did this at all because it's not leading immediately to a levy. Here with this thing, what are these guys thinking? They're obviously not reading from the script because they're talking about, probably not going to pass, but they're talking about doing something that would help solve a problem, and they're showing that they can get 6 officers for under $200,000. Well, that's an amazing deal because they've been saying it would cost $135,000 for 1 officer in a vehicle. And, they're not trained, but you told us they are trained. Well, they're only watching over that. You're putting them in charge of the kids and they're not trained. Well, yes, they're trained. No, they're not. Yes, they are. No, they're not.
Yeah.
Stop lying to us. One of those is a lie. It can't all both be true. Why don't we have it's like this plaque on a rock? If it's true that you can go down and get 90 full-time family wage jobs after putting a plaque on a rock, let's do that about 10 times.
Yeah. Of course, we know that that's BS, but this has an element of truth to it, because see, this is the thing, is that this is something that the sheriff has wanted to do, and he's obviously been talking with the people at the school district to see about facilitating this, and they came up with this. I have a question, Dale. Can the school district put a levy on anytime they want, or do they have to go out and get signatures as well?
I believe they can put on a levy anytime they want because they are a district. And a district can do that without the signatures, as the commissioners can do it without signatures if they decide to put something on. But you notice that the support behind this has not been, hey, I want that $134,000, could say the sheriff, because I'm going to do something similar to this. Instead of 6, it'll only be 5 or 4.5 or 4 3/4. But it's not coming from a levy. This is a levy. Yeah, I'm behind that. What if it wasn't a levy? Oh, well, then I'm not behind it. Really?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Okay, so here is the measure as you see it in the voters pamphlet. Yes, we were the first ones to release this stuff from the voters pamphlet, and we put it out there for you. This is measure 1771. And what Mike and I are going to endeavor to do is, once again, the most interesting thing on television. We are going to read to you what this says, because maybe you would find some getting your hands on it. So why don't you start it off, read all the way through the question, and I'll read the summary and we'll keep going. Okay?
Okay. Measure 1771, Three Rivers School District. Referred to the people by Three Rivers School District. 1771, 3-year local option levy for operations. Question: shall Three Rivers School District impose up to $200,000 each year for 3 years for safety operations beginning in 2016? This measure may cause property taxes to increase more than 3%. Summary.
Okay.
Okay.
We're going to take turns. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
The Three Rivers School District proposes a levy of up to $200,000, or approximately 5 cents per thousand of assessed value, to contract with the Josephine County Sheriff's Department for deputies to act as peace officers to protect the district's 15 schools. The deputies will be experienced police officers who are currently retired. Deputies will be armed and in uniform as a resistance and presence in schools to help deter a school shooter or terrorist attack, and provide help to staff in cases of trespass or violent persons on campus. Deputies will not be involved in disciplining of students. Oh, no spanking. The amount to be collected will allow the district to contract for the equivalent of 6 peace officers district-wide, working 180 days per year, 6 hours per day. The collected funds will also provide for uniforms, equipment, and mileage to allow movement from school to school. Deputies will have radios and be connected to 911, but will not be called or used for any incident or patrol outside of schools, which is not what Cheryl Walker said. Your turn.
Well, and Cheryl may not be the authority on this situation.
Oh, I'll read the next sentence and you read the explanatory statement. How about that? That gives you.
Okay.
The estimated tax cost for this measure is an estimate only, it's in caps, based on the best information available from the county assessor at the time of the estimate, and may reflect the impact of early payment discounts, compression, whatever, and the collection rate. Mike, your turn.
Explanatory statement. The Three Rivers School District proposes a levy of up to $200,000 per year for 3 years to contract with the Josephine County Sheriff's Department for deputies to act as peace officers to protect the district's 15 schools. This would cost each Three Rivers School District resident approximately $5 per year on a home valued at $100,000. The amount to be collected will allow the district to contract for the equivalent of 6 peace officers district-wide, working 180 days per year, 6 hours per day, at a contract rate of $25 an hour. This level of service will allow the sheriff's office to keep the officers' hours below the PERS limit for service, thus allowing the officers to maintain their PERS benefits. The collected funds will also provide for uniforms, equipment, and mileage to allow movement from school to school. The deputies will be experienced police officers who are currently retired. This sounds like deja vu. They will be employees of the sheriff's office. The deputies' duties are first and foremost to be armed resistance and presence in schools to help deter a school shooter or terrorist attack. Second, to provide help to staff in cases of trespass, violent or potentially violent persons on campus, custodial interference cases, and other similar situations. And third, to provide an education resource to staff around safety and security, drug and alcohol abuse, DUI consequences, and other areas of expertise that they might contribute based on their careers in law enforcement. The officers will not have a role in school discipline. The peace officer's ongoing evaluation will be conducted by the sheriff with input from the school district. The officers would be supervised by the sheriff's office and report to their supervisor, who will in turn coordinate with the superintendent to assure the needs of the district are met. Using the Sky Marshal design, each school would have a peace officer on site an average of 3 hours per day. Only the superintendent or his or her designee would know the officer's schedules at any given time. The superintendent would continually work with the schools and officers to evaluate the efficiency of their schedules to create the most impact and service possible to each school.
The peace officers would have firearms, which are secured in a level 3 security holster, which requires 3 levels of security retention while worn by the peace officer. They would carry dispatch radios and cell phones, allowing them to be in contact with, travel to, and support an officer at another location. Officers would be driving personal vehicles between schools and would be reimbursed for mileage based on current federal guidelines. As employees of the sheriff's department, officers would have access to the latest training and techniques around school shootings and response. They would be provided ongoing training and professional development to help them be more effective in school environments and prepare them to better meet the specific goals of the district around safety and security.
Yeah, man.
So that's very interesting. This is what's possible. It's not really even thinking outside the box. It's still inside of a box, but it's definitely possible. And it helps solve a bit of a problem. And they're run through the sheriff's office. These aren't, some kind of kitty cops or something. These are professionals, and they're armed. Now, please explain to the best of your ability, Mike Jones, why this can't be done on a wider basis.
Yeah, I was just about to ask that question. I don't see any reason why it couldn't be. It looks like the big sticky wicket here is, only a certain amount of hours per pay period to avoid going over some sort of PERS limitation. And so I don't know why you can't just, do that all the time and have some of these guys roaming around the and they could even be in their own cars or cars that are not your normal equipment cop car. I don't think that, at the scene of a crime, that the most important thing is that they arrive in a fully equipped cruiser. I think the most important thing is that the guy is there and he has lethal force on his person to use in deterrence of crime or to apprehend a criminal.
Well, it's interesting that you brought up the thing about hours, because they said in this, see if this sounds familiar, everybody, 3 hours per day. Mm-hmm. Now, up in Cave Junction, how many people did they arrest in 3 hours?
Yeah. A lot. 10.
3 hours. Now, yeah. we asked the police chief, since you know that there are people that will go in for, let's say, 3 hours at, pick a random place, the Wonderbur, and that they come out after 3 hours and they get in their car and start driving away, why don't you park somewhere near the Wonderbur?
Yeah, I think that there is a little bit of an unspoken courtesy that they don't, attempt to entrap people coming out of local drinking establishments.
But they went into the Red Garter. There's crime happening there, and everybody in Cave Junction already knows where the crime is. This is what the crying shame is. They know where it is.
Well,
you know what? There at night? Are you kidding?
I don't want to cast any aspersions on the Red Garter Saloon that aren't already there. I mean,
okay.
This place has a reputation. Back in the 80s when I was up here, the place had a reputation. So, yeah.
Tonight's show was brought to you by the Red Garter.
Yes.
Everybody has a lot of fun.
Yes, things haven't changed that much, but I doubt that these were crimes that were being committed inside the Red Garter Saloon or just outside the Red Garter Saloon. I think they were sweeping through trying to pick up certain people, according to this article. So, I doubt that, or I don't want to say that the Red Garter Saloon is a crime-ridden cesspool.
Okay, I won't say that either then.
Okay.
So there was an article in the Medford Mail Tribune called Levy would fund armed officers in Three River schools. And it says that, the $200,000 for 6, and that they met at the Fort Vanoy elementary school, and that the sheriff was there, and he was saying that, I believe this is certainly possible, and that there weren't that many questions asked of him. Everybody thought that it made some kind of sense, and the general conclusion is that this is the kind of thing that ought to be possible to be done pretty easily. And you can go to Three Rivers School internet site and see for yourself about why they think that you should pay extra for this. But it still keeps coming back to one central question, is that if we've got enough money to come up with $135,000 pulled out of nowhere, and then
per year for 5 years.
Right, and then stuck back up into nowhere without telling us. We keep asking them where that come from and where to go to. They don't want to answer us. Well, now, why do you think they don't want to answer us, Mike?
Well, because we're onto something is probably, and that's, I'm saying that's the root of it. That's probably it.
Yeah. So these things can be done. So we're going to do the best that we can to go over some of the potential options. $1 million came in this last year from nowhere, from timber receipts that they hadn't expected. What portion of that went to law enforcement? We think, because we've asked, none of it went to law enforcement, even though it's a screaming emergency. Okay, screaming emergency. $135,000. It could have gone to in fact, even Cheryl Walker said, well, this could go to law enforcement. Why she said that is a mystery. It came out of nowhere. It went to nowhere. the commissioners say, especially Keith Heck is fond of saying, well, people keep saying we got money and we're not revealing the source and we're not. This is exactly that. Or that we could spend money, but we don't have any money. We're bare bones. What about this amount? Why don't you, if you don't mind, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the discretionary funds that we've spoken about before? I can help also with this. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, yeah, and I'm a little murky on the complete details, but you know, at the end of last year's budgeting process, $1 million came in that they weren't expecting. These were Title I funds. These were not, I don't believe that these were timber receipts. In other words, timber receipts, I believe, can be used in the general fund stuff. Title I is would have been restricted like road dollars, the use of it for rural road patrols. And for some reason, it's not in the supplemental budget this year. And, you know, for purposes of transparency, it certainly should be included in there. And why they don't want to tell us where that money is a really good question. It sort of makes you wonder what plans they have for it. And, you know, some people are going to be showing up at the weekly business session tomorrow to talk about this. And it's just essentially, you know, it certainly should be in the supplemental budget. So if an emergency arose, that those funds could be taken advantage of via House Bill 4175, which allows us to use road dollars for rural patrols. And that certainly should be in there and available, but apparently is not even showing up in the supplement.
It's not a levy. It's simply not a levy. There's your answer. Okay, we have money that comes in from franchise fees. One of the a big chunk of money goes into the general fund from cable television, and part of it's supposed to be used for transparency for the public. It's not, but that's what it's supposed to be used for. You were paying for it if you have cable TV. Okay, you were already paying for it. They take that and they dump that into the general fund. We've talked with the sheriff about the 10% that skimmed off the top. Well, that's for administration. We talked with the sheriff. I just asked him a few days ago. First time he's talked to me in a long time. And I was saying to somebody else, and I turned to him and said, yeah, we can do that. Where the sheriff would decide and his department would decide how much toner and paper and those kinds of things that they need. And they would buy them from the company store, which would be the county. Instead of being told, here's how much you're going to get, they say, here, I want that amount. And then they decide to use double-sided paper and hire an extra deputy or whatever that would end up being. They make the decision. Oh, the commissioners don't want that because that means they're out of the loop. They don't get that 10% to spend on whatever they want. And we've heard them talking about how they spend that 10% on anything they want to. Thank you very much. So there are other areas. I mean, our membership in So Ready, which doesn't seem to be doing us any good. The times where Simon Hare comes back and says, well, nothing happened to that meeting in D.C. Don't go then next time. Well, I'm the chair of the chair committee. No, not anymore. There's all kinds. We're not going to give them any more money until we're sure the money they currently have is being spent correctly. Right? Am I missing something here, Mike?
Not that I can see. That's pretty much how I feel about it. I don't trust these guys with anything now that I've observed their activities for a couple of years. And, you know, I try to be objective. I try not to, you know, pick apart every single thing that they do. But you know, I watch some of the stuff that they do and I think, wow, these guys are just not ready for prime time. It just seems like they can't win for losing here. And
economic development money. Economic development money that's already, oh, well, you can't do that. You can't do that, says a couple of the commissioner candidates. You can't do that because you can't spend it on departments. They're already spending.
Yeah, well, and of course, some of those departments, if you go through, and it's convoluted when you read through the law that that pertains to this economic development money, the lottery money coming back down here. But this idea that you cannot use those economic development funds for the sheriff is a subjective interpretation. It doesn't say anywhere in there that you cannot use these for the sheriff. It actually has some pretty foggy, murky language about basically whatever you think helps out economic development in your area. You know,
and
so
it's foggy and murky on purpose. On purpose,
right?
They discuss that too, and so.
But, you know, listen, there's a whole lot of things that tie together. It's like Dale was talking about earlier in the show, where they don't want to make an effective showing because that would subtract from the need to get more money from people to have effective policing take place. And then also, you know, the commissioners here want us to believe that SRS and every timber payments and everything else is coming to a dead halt, and there isn't going to be any more of it. And of course, that the purpose that serves is to heighten people's fear that they're going to be left out in the cold, and we better throw some more money at these people. And and then there was what Dale was just talking about, which now I've forgotten because I rambled too far in between it. But essentially, there's a theme going on here, and that is, you know, control of the information so that we can affect the outcome that we want. Now, you know, sadly for these people, we have pretty good information here. If you're interested in looking for it, you're going to find this show, or you're going to find other people talking about what's actually going on in the county, and you're not going to be hoodwinked by this stuff. But it doesn't stop them from continuing to spew it.
Well, speaking of spewing, so the Courier finally did a story about some of these things, but they left out the part where the commissioners have been saying to us all along that there's nobody talking about continuation of SRS payments so that we can keep safety going. They did not want to report that, even though that's one of the prime ingredients of it. And once again, KJO is not wanting to report these things. You're not going to hear this on KJO. You're only going to hear it here. So what's our value? Our value is at least there's some place that you can go where people are not controlling what you're hearing. They're laying it out for you. I mean, take a look at this thing again. Here this deal is, okay? There is a value to this. Whether you're going to say, oh, I'm not going to vote for a levy or not, the value of 1771 is that I'm getting stuck on the Revolutionary War here, Mike. The value of this 1771, I keep thinking of Satan worshipers. The value of 1771 is it proves to you that even the sheriff's department is absolutely sure that we can get qualified people, 6 of them, for at least 3 hours a day in our schools for less than $200,000. That's good news.
And right, it is. It is. It flies a little bit in the face of you know, all of the stops that they were putting up in front of us before when we're talking about hiring road deputies. And that, well, you know, it takes a year to train them, and then you're out of money, and you can't keep them after you just spent all this money to train them. So that's you know, a total waste of time. Now, how is it that doesn't apply to these guys? Somehow?
Yes.
You know, I'm a little lost in that.
They're getting caught in their lies, Mike. It keeps seeping out around the edges. Keep talking about that. It's like trying to jab 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag. It keeps seeping out. They can't help themselves.
Part of the problem is that they don't really want to do they don't want to accomplish efficiency at a lesser cost, because if you do that, then you'll say, oh, well, you don't need more money, and they want more money. So more money is clearly the objective here. I just wish, you know, that we had people in government who were thinking about our wallets as much as they do their own. it'd be nice to listen. The sheriff, if he's going to be able to get these guys for that price, that's a fantastic deal. Now, why can't we do some more of that? Why can't we listen? I don't care that there is a bunch of labor laws that say this, that, or the other thing, or some union edict that says that you cannot do, and which they'll gladly use that excuse. Oh, we can't do this because, then these guys will be all over us. They'll sue us or whatever. Why in an emergency situation are we tied to that sort of thinking? Why can't we just do the things that we need to do? Once again, here's government stopping us from doing the things that we need to do. There ought to be some sort of an exemption from having to jump through that hoop. Here we are up against the wall, and you're going to stop us with some stupid administrative rule or something. And this reminds me of the situation where the PATCO air traffic controller said, well, we don't like everything, we're walking out. And in the meantime, airplanes are flying around up in the sky and nobody's up there controlling them. And Reagan said, that's it, you're gone. And that took some red tape out of things. That took care of some of the problems. And so we need to be able to think outside the box, do some things that are perhaps not the standard practice, but essentially get things done, because what we're supposed to be doing here is getting stuff done.
So to put bottom line to it, there is an emergency. It's an emergency. The emergency is that you are not following your instructions about raising your taxes. It's not law enforcement. It is you refuse to raise your taxes unless you're sure the money's going to the right place, unless you trust these guys. There's your emergency.